14, verse 24 and 25. But the boat was now in the midst of the sea, tossed with waves, for the wind was contrary. And in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went to them, walking on the sea. The fourth watch of the night is between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. in the morning. They set sail in the early evening, and they could have made it across the sea in 2 or 3 hours, but they battled the wind and waves for 8 long hours. Evidently, the wind blew against them, and they were no longer closer to their destination than when they started. They were weary, tired, and exhausted. They felt they could battle no longer. Their strength was gone. There are times in life when the battle is fierce. The storms rage all around us, and we are so exhausted with the battle that we feel we cannot fight any longer. Here is the incredible good news. Where was Jesus during this time? What was he doing during their intense struggle? He was praying for them. He was asking the Father to increase their faith, to give them strength to face the storm, to give them courage to go on. Jesus knew what they did not know. The cross was coming, and the storm that they were going through now would increase their faith for what would lie ahead. In the storms of life that we face daily, Jesus is preparing us for greater cries that will break upon our world in the future. The disciples saw the storm, but Jesus saw them. Their eyes were fixed upon the waves, but Jesus' eyes were fixed upon them. To the disciples, everything seemed out of control, but Jesus was still in control. Amid the storms of life, his eyes are upon us. When the thunder rolls and the waves are high, he is still mighty to save. In the darkness, he is our light of life. In verse 25 and 26, the scripture says, "Now in the fourth watch of the night, Jesus went to them, walking on the sea. And when the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were troubled, saying, 'It is a ghost.' And they cried out for fear." Now, the Greek word for fear is translated in verse 26 is an extreme strong word. It can be better translated terrified. Here's the problem. The disciples feared what they did not know. They saw what they thought was a ghost. Belief in evil spirits was common in the first century Palestine. The idea of ghosts, goblins, and phantoms was widespread. These disciples had spent years with Jesus, but in a time of storm, their fears overtook their rational thinking process. The unknown often creates fear, and the problem is that sometimes our worst fears come true. There are those who say, "Do not worry about it. Everything is going to be okay." But you and I know that everything may not always turn out as we desire. So we play the what if game. What if I do have cancer? How will I handle it if my physician tells me that I must begin treatment immediately? My husband was not home for supper at 5 p.m. and it is 7 p.m. now, and he has not called. What if he has been in an accident? My company is making severe cutbacks. What if I lose my job and can't pay my bills? My teenage son is on a camping trip. It has been 3 days and he has not called. What if he is lost in the mountains? The what if question must give way to the voice of Christ, who proclaims in the midst of the raging sea, the blowing winds, and the overwhelming darkness, "Be of good cheer. It is I. Do not be afraid." Have you ever noticed how many times Jesus says, "Be of good cheer"? Throughout the Gospels, Jesus uses the expressions, "Be of good cheer" and "do not be afraid" repeatedly. Jesus is the answer to the overwhelming fears that consume our energy, that rob our joy and ruin our health. Fear must give way to faith, and we adjust our focus. Fear is an emotion. We can necessarily control our emotions. Emotions come and go. They often suddenly sweep us over. Faith is an attitude. Faith is trusting God as a well-known friend, believing that He loves us and will never do us harm. I encourage each and every one of you today that you must have faith. Instead of you having fear, you must have faith, because faith is an attitude that we can possess, and it can actually take us to greater heights, in the heights where we know that God is there for us. God is there to keep us. Have faith, my friend. Have faith, my sister. Have faith, my brother. Have faith, my dad. Have faith, my mother. For the Christ that we are talking about is an ever-present Christ. He is there in our storms. He is there in every situation that you may face in life. Fear can do us harm, but faith can take us to greater heights.